Hello. We're going to make the Sanders rig. I don't want the Sanders rig lost after I'm gone. So it's not hard. It's one knot. Okay, and I'll show you the knot. But we're going to start with from the pole all the way up. So we use ultralight poles. The reason we use ultralight poles is because it's more fun. It's that simple. You can use any pole you want, you can catch a trout, okay? But we use the ultralight stuff because it's more fun. And Mommy will ultimately show you. I'll have lots of fishing poles and they're going to be trout poles and all that good stuff. But right now the things you want to know are if you're using 6-pound test on your ultralight, on your reel, your leader wants to be 4-pound. If you're using 8-pound, you want 6-pound leader. The reason for that is because when you start, so basically I'm going to start from, right now there's line on this, yes, you can see that? Flip the bail, grab the line, and normally it's going to be, there is this little thing on this. If you look on the pole and you have this bail flipped, you can actually catch the line under this, lock it up, and it makes it where the line doesn't come. So this secures the line, if that makes any sense. So we're going to flip the bail. We're going to grab the line by the end, and we're going to just spool it up. There's the bitter end of the line, and this is, I think, 6-pound test, whatever, okay? I think it's 6-pound, we're using 4-pound leader. You want to run it through the eyelets, okay? And it's going to be all of the eyelets. Right now, your pole is like 5 foot, 4 foot. These poles are closer to 7. So you want to make sure it goes through every eyelet. Also, when you're going through the eyelets, check the eyelets and make sure there's no dirt, make sure there's no debris, and make sure there's not damaged, because if there's any abrasion or anything sharp in these eyelets, it'll cut the line as the fish comes in. So you just want to inspect the line and all that good stuff. Cut a little bit off, and if you cut some off, make sure that you've got plenty of line. And on a depending on how much you're fishing, you want to make sure to change the line on your reels on a pseudo regular basis. Once you get it through this point, you can reach down and you can flap this bail over and then just give it a nice pull. You don't have to pull too hard. It doesn't have to go all the way to the end, but you just want to make sure you hit all the eyelets. Make sense? And that's an easy way to check. Put this back over here, and we're going to start with our first. The first thing we do with a Sanders rig, okay, is the Sanders rig consists of, that's the basis of the Sanders rig, okay? They make different sizes of these. They make different styles of these. This is called a bubble, adjust-a-bubble. This is the largest one they make. They make different sizes. They make different shapes. You can get them at Walmart. Walmart's going to be the cheapest place to get them. Large, medium, small, depending on what you're doing. And ultimately, I'll do a video on all the things that you can do with this when we're out on the lake or whatever. But this is just how to make it, okay? It's more confined. There's no wind, all that good stuff. So, depending on if you're using 8-pound or 6-pound test for your base line, you want to, you see, I don't know if you can see this. You see how jacked up the end of that is? Okay. You want to try to get a little less jacked up. With a 6-pound line, depending on if you're using fluorocarbon or monofilament or whatever, you want to try to get a little straighter. Can you get it perfectly straight? Not really. If you can, I don't know if you can see it, okay? But you want to try to get a reasonably straight piece. Sometimes you can straighten it out just a little bit by pinching the opposite side, so your nail goes on the opposite side of the bend, and give it a pull, and look at that, kind of straightens it out a little bit, okay? This is the problem though. You want it to be pretty straight. So pop off that piece, and you've got a pretty straight line, because you're going to start with you see that's a cone, yes? You start with a tip, the pointy end of the tip that goes through the cone. This is probably going to be the most annoying part of this whole thing, but if you do everything right, it goes, come on, please don't call me a liar, and you are. Right on. This is going to, you can again give it some twists and stuff like that. And grab it. And that is going to be, a lot of the time, the hardest part of this, okay? You can pull a little out, depending on if your drag's set well or not. The drag we've already talked about. but I can talk about it later. This is the easiest knot. All these knots are exactly the same. If you find a knot, a Palomar, whatever you decide, a uni knot, whatever you decide, this knot has worked for us for 50 years. Okay? It just has. So, pull some out. I don't care how much you do. You make a loop and pinch it. See the tail sticking out? Okay?
If you put it up against your shirt, it shows the line better.
Oh.
Or like, on the with your shirt as a background.
Okay, so there's that. Now, I'll probably do this one time with it in front and one time behind me so you can see how I'm seeing it. Then, grab it and pinch this end. And I could probably do this left-handed as well if you'd like, but the whole point of this is to get this to do that. You see that loop? You see that? You grab that loop and make another loop. When you make that loop, all you're going to do is tie a knot in it. That's it. It's that simple. One knot. So this is what it's going to look like. See the loop on the loop? See the loop at the loop at the loop? Loop, loop.
Wait. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Then you take that loop and stick it through. This simply goes through. This is the, depending on the line, 4-pound test is sometimes the hardest. That's it. I just stuck that through. And pull. That's it. It's that simple. It's just a knot, a single knot. And then you give it a look. Dink, dink, dink. Now, cutting it off, I normally try to put it down to about 1/4 inch. So, about that much tail. The more tail, sometimes it might, you know how that we get tangled up and all that stuff. The more tail sometimes can cause that to be more. Then what you do is you, oh, thank you, Ben. You take one swivel. Once you have that knot, you take one swivel. Make sure the box lock is closed. You see that hole? I can see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Put the whole thing, loop through that hole. Thwick. Right? Then take the whole thing and put it back through the loop in the line. Through your knot loop. Grab it, bring it down, get it over the knot. See how it's kind of stuck on the knot right there? I don't know if it matters, but I like it to be over the knot and secured down. That's your knot. This is the base. If we have one secret, that's it. That's our secret. Simple, simple. That's it. You already know what to do with this. Fill it up with water, fill it halfway with water, fill it 3/4 with water, whatever. And with this, you can make you can fly fish, you can lure fish, you can bottom, you can top, you can do whatever you want. That's the secret. That's it. That's our only secret. Everybody, you can buy them, but how versatile it is. So at that point, you can reel this back to the top. You can go and fill this with water, cast it out, make sure your line is good, all that good stuff. But then comes the leader. Okay? That's it. It's that simple. Okay, then we're going to make I'm going to make a 2-hook leader. The 2-hook leader is simple, but the 1-hook leader is just even more simple. It's one less operation, okay? So, you take yourself a piece of line. When I first learned how to do this, I was 7, 8 years old, and Dad told me it's an arm length because I was 7 years old. Well, if I do an arm length now, you're talking about a 6-foot piece of line. It's not really 6 foot. Depending on the size of your pole and all that, your leader should be maybe 2 feet. But the last few leaders that I've used, maybe 1.5 feet. So depending on if it's a 1 or a 2 foot, about that much leader works. Okay? You can use less, you can use more. The more the leader, the more there's a tendency for it to tangle. Okay? So, you remember the knot? We'll practice the knot again. It loops over, and it doesn't matter how big the knot is. I like to try to make small knots, but it doesn't matter. See the pinch? That's all I'm doing. I'm pinching that end to make it sure it's small enough. I might have made this one too small and made this one into a pain in the butt. We'll see. The thing is, the bigger the loop, sometimes the easier it is. And give it a pull. There's the loop. It's that simple. It's not that hard. Give that tail. Ding, ding, ding. Just give it the opportunity to stick, and then you can cut it off. Knife, scissors, bite it, whatever. Okay? Come to the other side, do exactly the same thing. Make a loop. Pinch the loop. And then you're just going to make another loop with the two lines, with it as a loop. Right? Okay. Go to the end. See how I made this one longer? This one, it makes it a little easier to do, but then you end up with big loops. I don't know if it matters. Now, if you're making the loop, so you're left-handed, okay? If I pull that loop tight with my right hand, it actually makes the loop smaller. If I pull it with my left hand, I can make the loop a little bigger. You're going to be the opposite when you tie it left-handed, okay? Give it a pull. Ding, ding, ding. Okay. The two hook is this. Watch. Right dead center. Look at the loop. Come up. You do exactly the same way. Pinch. Right? Give it a loop. Stick it through the loop. Give it a pull. Right? The only difference is with this knot, and I don't know why, is this loop will slip. So all you do is you give one knot. Stick your finger down through, catch it, pull it up through, and knot it. One knot. Boom. That one's done. Okay? So there's the line leader, right? Right about this time, if you're at the lake and you're trying to, and this is when you're going to get a bite. Right here is when you're going to get a bite. And you're going to have to throw it down and you'll lose it, okay? It's just the way it is. Anyway, you come up with a swivel. Close the lock. The reason you close it is because it's too easy for that to get inside, so just make sure it's closed. And then you drop it. So you grab the next one. Make sure it's locked. Come up to, I'm going to use the small loop to hook it to my leader. So I'm going to use the larger loop at the bottom. I'm going to cut this tail. Ding, ding, ding. See the tail? Sticks up back. And again, you've already pinched it, so it's already got a bit of a pinch. And you put it through the hole. I don't know if the camera can see it. Mommy will tell me. Mm-hmm. See it through the hole? Mm-hmm. So it's just hanging. Look. That's it, right? Then, so right now you put the line through the swivel. Now you put the swivel through the line. Now, if you watch it, this will come all the way down. Sometimes the knot, depending on your line test, sometimes the knot's a little hard getting through that hole. Not a big deal, though. And I like to have it where it's looped versus sometimes this line will get stuck on some of these little twisties. I like it to have, right, if you can see that, I don't know if it'll macro, it's looped right over. Okay, so there's swivel one. Then, the next swivel, there's my line that goes to my leader. This one's exactly the same way. Here's the middle line. Okay? You do the same thing. The same thing. You pop it through. Doink. Oh, come on. Pop it through. Then pop through the line. So the first time you put it through the swivel. Second time you put the swivel through the line. And see it pull down. Boink. Okay? Then, it doesn't matter. I usually at this point will connect it to my leader. Okay? And the reason for that is management. It just makes it easier this way. So, open the box lock. Down over the line. Come on. Close the box lock. And then I'm going to come up and cut this tag. And cut this tail off. And again, about 1/4 inch, maybe less, 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so there is 2 hooks. Now, there are rigs out there that can do this for you. In fact, there's a rig where it actually there's a piece of wire that sticks off and keeps that hook away from this line. You want to use those? Go for it. But this is the basic of what what you've caught fish with. Okay, then it's the easy part. Size 8, 10, 12 hooks. Okay. Whether or not you use the red ones, whether or not you use the brass ones, the gold ones, whatever, this is what we've used forever and ever and ever and ever and ever.
Which number are those?
This is a size 8. Okay. Mm-hmm. Size 8 hook. You take a hook and a hook. Now, then they're hooks. You can call them egg. You can call them bait holders. They're hooks. Hook 1, and this is for, and if that's all you've got, great. Hook 2. Oh, there's 2. They've already got their own loops. This is, I think, about 8-pound test. These are, okay? And again, the reason I'm using a heavier test here and lighter test here is losing a bunch of hooks and some swivels is less bothersome than losing the whole bobber. It's also a little less work, yeah? So that's the reason I do that. You open it, slide down, pop it over, pop the hook on, slide it back on. Pop this down. Now sometimes, and this one did it, this one's a smaller one, and this brass piece within this is kind of slid up. Just make sure it's in the right place. That's all. You can slide them back down. Then pop this on. Close it. Make sure it's all secured. Make sure all your hardware is done. And you've got yourself a 2-hook leader. Okay? You know how to use this part. Now, if you just want 1 hook, you just simply don't make one in the middle. And there's your leader. Stick down. This is a longer leader than I would make for you. I would probably... the full length of your leader would probably be about here. In fact, I could show you your leader now. Your leader's still hooked together on your pole. And then once you're done, bait up, water or no water, and then these just come right in here, and you can secure these, one on the eyelet. And sometimes you get lucky, sometimes not as lucky, depending on. I like to make sure to secure the bottom one. So, again, depending on how there's actually, most poles have this one down here. So, depending on how your darn it, I can't think of the word now. Drag is set. You come up, and you don't want to let these sit with too much bend in them. That's all. So that's it, and that secures it to where it's a little easier. Again, it comes down to management, and sometimes this will just kind of hang off here, and there's your rig. Simple. I don't know if you can still. Were you able to see that? Real quick, I'll go get your pole and I'll show you the difference in length. Hold on. This is your actual rig. So here, well, you know what? That is a pretty long leader. That's the one you dealt with. So here is where. This is the one you caught 50 fish. So, see, not quite as long if we look. No, you know what? It's about as long. It's not much shorter. It's almost the same length as what I just made. Well, that's incredible. Look at how close that is to the same. Look how close that is to the same length. That's at the same spot. It's just a tiny bit shorter. That's pretty good. And again, you've got on this pole, which is one of the older poles. This is a neat rig, by the way. And I did switch it because I used it. You caught fish on this when you weren't there. Makes it simple. I'm going to switch this back to the left. Anyway, and that's how to make the rig. There are bunches of ways to do other things, okay? But the whole point is if you want to fish with a lure, you take this off. And you have a lure. You make a loop, put a swivel at the bottom, and hook a lure to it. Close the box lock, put it on there, cast it out. You want to hook with a fly. Take all the water out of the bobber. All of it. Make it totally empty. Okay? And you take a long leader. And you tie a fly to the end. And you hook it onto that. And you cast it out. And you can actually have it land in the water. And the fly goes where you want. So you can get good at casting. The whole point of fly fishermen, when they're doing this, and you see that long loop going out, the whole point is to get the fly to where they want it. You can do the same thing with this as you get better at casting. Okay? So you can, there's just tons of different ways you can fish with this. At least 4 right off the top of my head. Fly fishing, lure fishing, top water, bottom water. There's 4, just like that. Imagination can do other things. Okay? You're going to get all the poles and stuff, but again, the ultralight stuff, when you're looking for poles, when you're looking for reels, we fish off the bank. If you decide to fish differently, bigger reels, longer poles, shorter poles, all that good stuff. But you know, as far as, and Mommy actually is pretty good at knowing that stuff too. If you need a pole, you go out and try to find an ultralight pole. Try to find, 5 foot to 7 foot. Try to find the smaller 1000 or 2000 series, depending on the smaller ones. And it comes down to it's super, super light and they hold plenty of line. The bigger the pole, sometimes the heavier the line. If you're going to go fishing for bass or you're going to fish for a big catfish, yeah, you're going to get bigger rigs and that type of thing. And I've got some of that stuff that you'll eventually get. You want the big rigs, you want 10, 12, 15, 20 pound test, which is real thick. It doesn't look thick, but it's super, super strong for catfish. And bigger hooks and bigger. And I've got the bigger for the catfish and for the stripers and for the bass and all that good stuff. But this is my meat and potatoes. I love the trout. I love trout. Your mom likes trout. But she likes catfish too. She likes catching big fish. So that's not a big deal. Your mom will go catfishing with you anytime. Okay? All right. You have any questions? Mommy knows too. Love you.